Welcome back to Francesca's Books. My name is Francesca, these are my books, and here we talk about all things thriller books. I am your go-to thriller girly. And today, if you haven't guessed by the thumbnail and by the boxes and books that are sitting around me, we have a book haul. So I recently went to 66 Books, which is a massive warehouse just outside of London, which operates like on a trade basis, but then one weekend a month they open to the public and everything is 70% off RRP. So I had an incredible time. I actually vlogged it, of course, for you guys so you could see if you wanted to go, to see what I got. So I'll pop the little thing up here wherever it is for you to go and check that out. But these are the books that I got from 66 Books, and there is 11 in total. So this is part of my haul. I then got sent a couple of PR packages, which I am just forever grateful for and don't understand how it is my life that I just get sent these books that I just love. So I will show you what I got in those. And then I have a nice big Amazon box of books as well, which is very exciting. So without further ado, here are the 16 books in my book haul. So firstly, I'm going to open the couple of PR packages because I'm not actually sure what's in them, and I feel like that is a lot more exciting. So the first one is, so this is Homewrecker, and it's actually published by the same publisher as Frida McFadden's books, and they reached out to me and said, would I like to give it a go? I said absolutely yes, of course. I've just opened this and look, we just love it. Like, only book girls know about this. Flop. So this is actually an advanced copy, but it is out in the US, but I think it's an advanced copy for the UK, and it follows our female main character, as always, and she has a husband and 2 kids, and one of her kids is like really struggling, so they hire like a child expert, it's literally what it says in the synopsis, to come in and just kind of like coach her through. But then one day she walks in and this child expert has like her hand on her husband. It's getting like weird vibes. This is kind of giving The Housemaid, like just from that description, but from Nina's point of view. So I will let you know about that one. I didn't prepare for this haul very well in terms of opening some of these hard boxes first, so ignore me using my keys. I've learnt a trick or two from all these thriller books I read, clearly. So next up, I got a lovely package from Chicken House, which is a YA publisher. And I haven't actually read any books by this publisher before, so I'm very keen to see what they've sent me, because they literally just said, do you want a PR package? And I said, yeah. So I have a feeling this isn't all going to be thrillers, but we're here for a mix. We're here for a romance palette cleanser. So I have a happiness tea. You can definitely get on board with that. A note from Chicken House saying, hope you enjoy our YA summer box. Best wishes, Ruth. Thank you very much, Ruth. Oh, a couple of really cute bookmarks, highlighter, love hearts. The people who put these book packages together are just too nice. Oh my god, this sounds perfect. This is the romance palette cleanser I've needed, guys. This one is called Annie LeBlanc is Not Dead Yet. It says 30 days, one chance to resurrect her best friend and her love life. At me next time, bro. I wonder if this is the second book in this series, because I knew she had a book called This Is Not the End. So I'm going to double check that this is not the second book, because then I obviously have to get the first book and read the first book first, but this sounds absolutely brilliant. Oh, guys. See, do you know what? This is why when publishers send you books that you never would have like chosen off the shelf and probably not paid full price for, knowing that it's not your typical genre or not something you'd normally read, this is why it works, because both of these books sound absolutely amazing, but there is no way that I would have picked either of them up if I saw them. But now I'm going to give both of these a read, and they are going to be bumped up my TBR. So the next book I've been sent is The Dark Within Us. Gorgeous cover, perfect for spooky season. This is what it says on the back. My Lucifer girlies, just unite, okay? If anyone wants to talk about Lucifer, the Netflix TV show, drop a comment, because I'm more obsessed with that than I am virtually anything else in my entire life. I definitely have a problem. Anyway, it says, Jenny's felt broken for a long time. Luke has his own issues. You would too if your family ruled hell. When they meet, a party sparks fly. She sees a handsome devil. He sees a lost soul. Both sense trouble. But it will take a journey to the very depths of the underworld to bring a girl and a demon together. Immediately read. Next up from Amazon. So I've actually ordered these, and I know what I've ordered because I am obviously a thriller girl through and through, but I've been trying to add like a few more like horror thriller books to my like to be read list this autumn, and just like make it a little bit more spookier. So that was the aim with these books. Let me show you. Okay, so the first one is a book that I see everywhere. The second I type in best books to read in spooky season. The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This is a US author, so to get a lot of her books in the UK can be tricky, especially her latest releases. But this is one that has now been UK published, I believe, which made it a little bit easier to get on Amazon. So I've been recommended this one so many times. I do have like a good idea about what it's about, even though I don't like to know too much going in. But it is obviously centered around this motel set in spooky season. And about 30 years ago, this girl's auntie has gone missing and like no trace, etc, etc. So female main character decides to go and like get a job there and like try and see if she can work out exactly what happened. But I think it's more on the side of spook than it is on the side of thrill. I think it may touch on paranormal. Don't know, haven't read it. But I'm very, very excited to read this one. I am going to do a spooky season reading vlog in the next couple of weeks, and this is definitely one that is going to be included as it is just such a staple of the genre. So next up is Cackle by Rachel Harrison, and I have read another book by Rachel Harrison and really, really enjoyed it. And this one is like just a perfect like Halloween theme. So it's about this girl who's basically been broken up with. She decides to like move town. She moves from Manhattan to like a really small town, and she gets there. Everything's like really good. Everything's going well. And then she meets this woman, and I think, judging by the synopsis, that she's a witch or there's something like really spooky about her. And they kind of make friends, and our first female main character can't decide whether like, just doesn't really know what to make of her. And I think it's more a story of like friendship with spooky, not like through and through thriller. So just bear that in mind if you're going to read this. But I did see one of my good friends on Bookstagram, Emma, rated this 5-star, and she just reads crime and thriller. So I thought that was like, you know, the final thing. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So yeah, this is on my spooky season TBR as well. Okay, so that was my Amazon and PR packages, and then these are the books that I got from 66 Books last weekend. And by the time I put all of these on my shelves, I fear they may be full. So maybe a new bookshelf should be incoming for this area. So these are in no particular order, and the first one I'm going to start with, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I absolutely loved but read on Kindle and don't have a physical copy of. So when I saw it for 70% off RRP, I of course bought The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is my favourite Riley Sager book, and I'm definitely going to give this a reread now I have the physical copy. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo as a thriller is the easiest way to describe this book. Super eerie, super chilling. If you've not read this and you want to take any recommendation from this video, it was 100% this book. Next up is a book by an author that I actually haven't read before, but have been recommended several times, and I see his books absolutely everywhere, and it is 11 Lies by Robert Gold. It's gotten to the point with this author where so many people have read his books that even one of my mum's friends recommended this book to me, and the first book, 12 Secrets. So I thought it's definitely about time, and with everything being so cheap at 66 Books, a paperback that was a tenner obviously works out at £3, so I thought this was just like the perfect chance to give it a go. But I'm aware this is the second book in the series. I don't think it's like a direct follow-on, but I like to read the first one first to know like the characters and be part of the world. So I'm definitely going to pick up the first book, but this was just such a good to have for when that time comes. Next up is a book by an author who I absolutely adore and I've not read enough of, considering how much I loved The Pact and The Split. Fantastic books. So I saw The Buried by Sharon Bolton and thought absolutely bang on perfect, I'm gonna get this. This is the second book to The Craftsman by Sharon Bolton. I'll pop it here, but it's also just there if you can see. This is quite a popular book that I've seen a few times, and I know this is the follow-up to it, so I will again grab a copy of The Craftsman first. But I feel like The Craftsman and 12 Secrets, the first book from the previous book I was talking about, are more widely available. I haven't seen these two as much. However, this sounds like a super eerie, super remote serial unaliver situation, so I'm very excited to get into it. Then next up fuels into my horror thriller agenda for spooky season, and it is Hell House by Richard Matheson. And my friend Sammy, who I went to 66 Books with, was like, this has to be an immediate purchase. So she grabbed a copy and then like basically talked me into it in about 5 seconds. Didn't take a lot of convincing, honestly, but it sounds absolutely brilliant. However, since I am like a bit of a horror newbie, and don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not going to go into like really hard horror and like body horror and gore. That's definitely not where my head is, but I feel like thrillers with a bit of a horror element is going to work for me. However, I read the front of this book, which is a quote from Stephen King that says, "Hell House is the scariest haunted house novel ever written." And I read that when I got home, so I don't know. I feel like Home Before Dark was scary enough for me, so God knows if I'm going to be absolutely scared at this. I don't know. Let's find out. I feel like it is about time though that like I push myself with some of my reading, because I do read very, very similar books, and I feel like just a little push maybe into each direction of genres is not a bad thing. Like, I think I do want to be a bit more of a well-rounded reader. Next up is a book by an author that I've read quite a lot on Kindle Unlimited and features heavily in my like Kindle Unlimited recommendations, but I've never seen any of her books in actual paperback. I didn't think they were traditionally published in the UK. It appears they are. The next book I got was The Widow by Cale Slater. I really loved the narrator by this book, and I have been talking about that book a little bit more recently. So when I saw this, I just thought, absolutely, this is one I haven't read on Kindle Unlimited, so thought it was just like a sign. So this follows a woman who is a widow, unsurprisingly, and her husband has died or has been unalived. However, now the police are like sniffing around thinking he was like into all sorts of like really dark stuff, and our female main character is basically just like determined to let everyone know that like he wasn't a bad guy, like he died an innocent man, like leave it that way. So I'll have to let you know what I think. Of course, my dad did die recently, so I'll have to be very mindful that I'm in a good headspace when I do read this one, just in case it's a little bit triggering for me personally. I don't think this will be triggering unless you've lost a husband or a dad in terms of that, but that's why I always caveat my recommendations with like check the trigger warnings for things, because there's things that would upset me that might not upset you and vice versa. So this is definitely a good pick because I adore this author's writing, but I'll definitely have to make sure I'm in a good headspace to read it. So when I saw this at 66, I was like immediately drawn to this cover. I hadn't even read anything by this author, so if anyone has read anything by Robin Morgan Bentley, please do let me know, because yeah, it's just an author I haven't even heard of, but there's so many good recommendations for this book, so not quite sure how I've completely dodged this author. However, the book is about a guy who goes out to himself, and then there is a car crash that he throws himself in front of to protect someone else, gets unalived, but then the guy that he saved is like absolutely racked with guilt. So I think it's just a story of like understanding whether he actually did want to unalive himself or not, and then seeing what happens and like the fallout of that. That's the vibe I'm getting. It's hard to recommend books to you guys, obviously, when I haven't read them yet, like this as a whole, because I only know kind of what it says on the back, and what I read on Goodreads are like whether it's good or not. So of course this is a book haul, so I know you're not like looking for reviews, but obviously it is handy to know what the books are about instead of me just being like, look what I got today. So very much looking forward to that one. It's quite a short one as well, so I feel like this would be quite a good when your head's like not in a super deep thinking mind space. I feel like this would be quite an easy read. Next up is When I Was 10 by Fiona Cummings, and I have heard of this author. I haven't read anything by her, but I do recognise the name, and I thought this cover is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So I picked it up, read the back, and bought it. So you may be thinking, Fran, why are you buying so many books? Like, bit excessive, little bit excessive? I don't know, maybe you're not thinking that. I certainly wasn't. However, you've got to remember that all these were 70% off RRP, so if I was ever going to read them at any point, or they sound good, and then I was thinking about them later on and I had to pay full price, just lost loads of money, so to buy them was the obvious choice, really. So this follows two sisters and something horrendous that they did when they were 10, and they've like just kept complete silence like all these years, and then I think a journalist starts investigating, or like, you know, one of these just like not a real journalist, like a pseudo journalist, starts investigating, and then one of the sisters decides to break the silence on those events. So it sounds really good. Again, gorgeous cover. I would read this book for the cover alone, and yeah, I'll let you know what I think. Next up are a couple of books I will do together because they are by the same author, and the author is Peter Swanson, who wrote The Kind Worth Killing. I love this book. Amazing writing, amazing level of depth, and fantastic characters. So I first saw Every Vow You Break, which actually sounds more like a holiday thriller, like now I've looked into it more, which isn't a bad thing. I'm going on holiday in 2 weeks. And this book basically follows our female main character who marries a really wealthy guy, and they go on their honeymoon, and then she recognises somebody from her past that she just like really doesn't want to see. And I imagine that the story just goes from there. I feel like there is going to be big summer vibes in this, so it might not be for everyone, but maybe one to like remember for your next like summer TBR, or just if you're not really bothered about like seasonal reading. I think I am slightly neurodivergent in the fact that I really enjoy nothing more than reading books that are set when we are, like where we are in the year. Don't know if that's just me. Let me know if it is. I'll be very happy if that's not just me. So this one sounds really good, and one that I am probably going to take on holiday with me. And then I saw 9 Lives, which I actually heard of several times and was going to buy a few weeks ago actually, so that was a brilliant choice. So this follows 9, as you can imagine, people who all receive the same letter, and all that's on this letter is their 9 names, and it says on the back it will be the most life-altering letter they ever receive, and also could be their last one. So I feel like this will be like a real guessing game. I hope in this book that they don't introduce all 9 characters, because my teeny tiny little brain struggles with things like that, but we will obviously see, and I do just trust this writer's writing a lot, so I will obviously let you know. Next up is Haven't They Grown by Sophie Hannah, and I actually haven't read anything by this author as well. This like 66 book trip was actually really good because it exposed me to like authors that I would never maybe not be exposed to at any point. But this one sounds so good, and this cover is just gorgeous. I'm just such a sucker for a cover. But basically this follows two like ex-best friends who were like haven't been friends for years and years and years, and then one of them is in town where the other one lives or thinks she still lives, and decides she's just gonna like drive by and just like out of curiosity just like have a nosy. And back when they were friends, this person she's nosying on had a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, I believe, so like two fairly young children. And then when the female main character drives past, she still has a 5 and a 9-year-old. 10 years later, and they look exactly the same. She looks exactly the same. Oh, sorry, 5 and 3 years old. This just sounds like really sinister as well as thrilling, so I'm really excited to read this one. This one's another that's quite short. It's just less than 300 pages, so I feel like this will just be a good time. And the very final book in my haul is a book by an author which I've been dying to read a little bit more from. I read The Holiday by this author a couple of years ago now and loved it, and he's released quite a few new books recently that have been really recommended and like really talked about. So this was a perfect place to start, and it is The Curfew, of course, by T.M. Logan. This follows like a teenage son, and he obviously has a curfew, and when he doesn't return from the curfew, his parents are like, why the hell would you not come home like for your curfew? As any parent of a teenager, I imagine, probably would. However, what he was up to whilst he missed his curfew sounds extremely sinister. There is a little bit on the blurb of this book that says that 5 teenagers go into a woodland, into a forest, and only 4 come out. I also just spotted as well, Linwood Barkley on the back has literally put as his review, anxiety on speed. So I will double on my anxiety meds before I give this one a go. So T.M. Logan's books do tend to be like slightly on the longer side. I think this one's about 450 pages, but they do tend to pay off. That's the thing. I don't mind a book being longer if it's necessarily longer. I just can't stand it when books are like 450, 500 pages. They could have easily been 350. So that was the very last book in our haul. Here was the book haul. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm just gonna put these down now. So if you've read any of these books already, do let me know, because I would love to know where to start, as always, as if I don't have this huge TBR bookcase, not even TBR shelf, TBR bookcase. But I love getting your guys like feedback on things like this, just so I can know where to start. Also, if there's any that like really take your fancy and you want me to read sooner rather than later so I can review it, also let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I cannot wait to see you next time.